Chaos is brewing in Minnesota. Viking Nation, the storm starts now with 3 bombshells that will reshape everything you thought you knew about the 2026 Vikings. A photo goes viral and the entire NFL starts talking. A draft class is about to challenge every veteran on this roster for their starting job. And a former All-Pro with $32 million in market value is sitting in free agency with Minnesota's name written all over him. Here's the first payoff. A.J. Brown was spotted wearing a Vikings towel, and the internet has not recovered. Stay locked. The double cliffhanger at the end will hit harder than a January playoff crowd at US Bank Stadium. One photo, that's all it took. One image posted to social media on a Saturday afternoon in Florida, and by Sunday morning the entire NFL world was running wild with speculation. A player who has been at the center of trade rumors in Philadelphia, one of the most physically dominant wide receivers in the entire league, was photographed wearing a Minnesota Vikings towel draped over his shoulders. The internet did not ask questions. The internet assumed. And Viking Nation. Viking Nation absolutely lost its mind. The name? A.J. Brown. The context? A celebrity charity basketball game in Tampa, hosted by Vikings cornerback Isaiah Rodgers, who played alongside Brown in Philadelphia when they both won a Super Bowl together in the 2024-25 season. Brown attended as a celebrity head coach to support his former teammate. The Vikings towel was on his shoulders. The cameras were rolling. And within hours, every Vikings fan with a phone was tagging the front office demanding a trade. Let's slow down and be honest about what this actually means, because the football reality is more complicated than a towel. According to Joe Nelson of Minnesota Vikings on SI, a trade for A.J. Brown is almost certainly not happening. The Vikings are already committed to picking up Jordan Addison's 5th-year option before the end of April. Justin Jefferson is on one of the largest contracts in NFL history. Minnesota is cap-strapped, and adding another elite-level wide receiver salary on top of that structure is not financially viable in 2026. Brown's price tag in both trade capital and contract extension would be astronomical, the kind of number that would cripple the rest of the roster construction. But here's what the photo actually tells you beneath the surface noise. A.J. Brown is close enough with Isaiah Rodgers to fly to Tampa and coach his charity event. Brown is immersed in Vikings culture socially, even if the football transaction isn't coming. And Rodgers, Minnesota's rising cornerback who won a championship in Philadelphia, is building exactly the kind of cross-team network that franchises use to recruit free agents and attract talent for years down the road. The event itself featured Cooper DeJean, Deontay Johnson, Edgerrin James, Antonio Cromartie, and a dozen other current and former players. This was a genuine gathering of NFL brotherhood, not a recruitment pitch. So no, A.J. Brown is not becoming a Viking this offseason, but the fact that a player of his caliber is photographed in purple and gold, even as a joke, even as a coincidence, says something about the direction this franchise is trending under Kevin O'Connell. The best players in the league want to be around this organization. That energy is real. And while the Brown dream stays a dream, the next story reveals something far more tangible. A draft class about to challenge every single starter on this Vikings roster for their job. The NFL draft is 16 days away. And for several veterans currently on the Minnesota Vikings roster, those 16 days are the last stretch of job security they can count on. Because when Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi Adofo-Mensah walk up to the podium in Pittsburgh on April 23rd, the picks they make won't just fill roster depth, they will directly challenge starters for their spots. Viking Nation, this draft class could reshape this team from the inside out. Let's go position by position. At running back, Aaron Jones is entering the final chapter of his NFL career. He remains a capable player when healthy, but Minnesota holds 9 total selections in this draft, including 4 within the first 3 rounds, and if they invest early in a back like Notre Dame's Jadarian Price or Arkansas's Mike Washington, a transition in the backfield could happen faster than most fans expect. Jones and Jordan Mason still form a functional tandem, but the competition is coming. At center, Blake Brandel enters camp as the frontrunner after Ryan Kelly's retirement and a quiet free agency at the position. Coach O'Connell publicly expressed confidence in Brandel, saying he has a ton of upside with his smarts and athleticism. But if Minnesota selects a center like Iowa's Logan Jones or Florida's Jake Slaughter in the middle rounds, a legitimate battle breaks out in training camp. The offensive line is otherwise locked. Darisaw and O'Neal at tackle, Donovan Jackson and Will Fries at guard, meaning center is the one domino that could fall. At tight end, TJ Hawkinson enters 2026 as TE1, but carries real vulnerability. He posted just 51 catches for 438 yards and 3 touchdowns last season, numbers that don't match his Pro Bowl pedigree. His knee injury from December 2023 continues to shadow his production. If the Vikings select Oregon's Kenyon Sadiq in the first round, and multiple analysts believe it's a real possibility. Hawkinson's starting role is immediately in question. Georgia's Oscar Delp reportedly already has a top 30 visit lined up with the team. The most critical positional battle of all may be at free safety. With Harrison Smith's future still undeclared, Jay Ward and Theo Jackson are currently competing for the starting spot. But nearly every mock draft has Minnesota targeting Oregon's Dylan Thieneman or Toledo's Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. Players analysts believe are ready to start on day one. If Smith retires, the rookie steps into one of the most important roles on the defense immediately. And on the defensive line, Levi Drake Rodriguez and Tyrion Ingram Dawkins face perhaps the most direct threat of all. With Jalen Redmond as the only true starting lock in Brian Flores' 3-4 base, prospects like Clemson's Peter Woods, Georgia's Chrisen Miller, and Ohio State's Caden McDonald are expected to hear their names called early, and they will arrive with immediate starting ambitions. The pressure is real. The competition is coming. And the next story reveals the free agent who could make all of those offensive pieces click together the moment he signs. $32 million. That's what the market says he's worth. And right now, 16 days before the NFL draft, he is sitting in free agency without a team, available, motivated, and according to multiple analysts, a uniquely perfect fit for exactly what Kevin O'Connell is trying to build around Kyler Murray in Minnesota. The name? Deebo Samuel, former All-Pro, former 49er. A player who doesn't just play wide receiver. He breaks the entire concept of what a wide receiver is supposed to do. Let's establish the profile first. Samuel can line up outside, work the slot, and carry the ball out of the backfield as a legitimate rushing threat. In 2025, with the Washington Commanders on a one-year deal worth over $17 million, he posted 72 receptions for 727 yards and 5 touchdowns through the air, and added 75 yards and a score on 17 carries on the ground. For his career, 5,519 receiving yards, 1,218 rushing yards, and 48 total touchdowns. At 30 years old entering the 2026 season, Samuel is not declining. He is a weapon that most defenses simply don't have a clean answer for because he doesn't fit a clean positional archetype. Now plug him into Minnesota's new offense. Jordan Rodrigue of The Athletic wrote this week that with a quarterback possessing Murray's mobility, the pistol formation can be incredibly effective. The quarterback can see the defense as if he's in shotgun, with a full menu of motions at his disposal, while he is able to disguise the run direction and whether he or the running back will keep the ball. Samuel operating in that system, alongside Justin Jefferson drawing every safety in the building and Jordan Addison running routes underneath, creates a combination that offensive coordinators genuinely cannot simulate in practice. The schematic fit isn't just good, it's almost unfair. The financial reality is complicated but not impossible. Spotrac projects Samuel's market value at 2 years and $31.5 million total. That is steep for a Vikings team with significant cap constraints and needs along the defensive front and in the secondary. But the longer Samuel remains unsigned, the more his leverage erodes. Teams closer to the draft are less likely to spend big on a veteran receiver they didn't plan for. A motivated Samuel, interested in winning, which he demonstrated for years with San Francisco, might accept a moderate discount to join a contender with a legitimate offensive infrastructure rather than wait for a desperate team to overpay in May. Minnesota holds 9 draft selections, including 4 in the first 3 rounds. They could address the defensive line and secondary through the draft and still have capital remaining. If the front office moves efficiently in Pittsburgh, the roster gaps narrow, and suddenly a veteran like Samuel becomes the final piece of a genuinely dangerous offense, rather than a band-aid on a broken depth chart. The question isn't whether Samuel makes this team better. He absolutely does. The question is whether Kwesi Adofo-Mensah is willing to make the call before someone else does. Viking Nation. Is Deebo Samuel the WR3 answer? Drop it in the comments right now. 3 stories. One unmistakable truth. A viral photo reminded the entire NFL that the best players in the league want to be connected to this organization. A draft class is about to storm into training camp and rip starting jobs from veterans who haven't faced this level of internal competition in years. And a former All-Pro with $32 million in market value is sitting in free agency waiting for a phone call from Minneapolis. This is not a team rebuilding in the dark. This is a franchise building in broad daylight with everyone watching. Let's zoom out and see the full picture. The A.J. Brown photo is noise, but it's meaningful noise because it reflects the gravitational pull this franchise now has around the league. The draft threat to every starter signals a front office that refuses to be comfortable and demands excellence at every position. And Deebo Samuel represents the kind of chess move that transforms a good offense into a nightmare for every defensive coordinator in the NFC North. Add Kyler Murray's mobility to Samuel's versatility, Justin Jefferson's dominance, and Jordan Addison's ascending trajectory, and this offense becomes genuinely unguardable in open space. The NFC North picture is shifting by the week. Detroit is talented but defensively uncertain. Green Bay is steady but lacks the splash move energy Minnesota is generating this offseason. Chicago is still years away. The Vikings are making moves in April while rivals are standing still. That asymmetry matters when the season kicks off in September. Here's what I need from Skull Nation right now. 1. Smash that like if you believe the Vikings are the most dangerous team in the NFC North heading into 2026. 2. Drop a comment. Samuel, Diggs, or Hopkins. Tell Quasi exactly who you want as the WR3. 3. Hit subscribe because every new subscriber makes Packers fans furious, and this offseason is just getting started. But stay right here because the cliff gets steeper. Deebo Samuel's market is moving, and league sources indicate at least 2 NFC contenders have made preliminary contact about his services. If Minnesota hesitates, he lands in a rival's offense and the window gets narrower. And on top of that, Harrison Smith still hasn't announced his decision for 2026. The greatest safety in Vikings history is either coming back for one final run or walking away forever, leaving a massive hole that every rookie safety in this draft class is preparing to fill. Which domino falls first? Skull Nation, the battle is here. Subscribe, stay locked, and let's take the NFC North. We ride together.